"She won't come," the Duke of Wexbury said, adjusting his cuffs before the glass. "And it is a mercy she won't. Half of England will be at the Ellesmere ball tonight, and I'll not have them whispering behind their fans about the plain little wife I was fool enough to marry." Behind him, his cousin Roland said nothing, which was Roland's way of saying a great deal. Adrian Fanshawe, Duke of Wexbury, had married Margaret Colvane 18 months earlier for reasons that had seemed at the time entirely sensible. Her fortune had steadied his estates. Her father's shipping interests had knit neatly with his. She was quiet, undemanding, and everyone agreed as plain as a hedgerow, brown-haired, grey-eyed, unremarkable in every particular, a woman one's eyes slid off of at a ball. He had done his duty by her. He had given her his name, his house, a generous allowance, and a wide and careful distance. And tonight, at the greatest crush of the season, he was going to escort Lady Cassia Verrill instead, a diamond, a beauty, a woman whose face turned every head, because a duke ought to be seen beside a face that turned heads, and Margaret's would only invite pity. "You'll take Cassia in on your arm," Roland said at last, "in front of every soul who matters and home darning your stockings, and you call yourself an honourable man." "Margaret has no wish to go," Adrian said sharply. "She said as much. Did she? Or did you tell her she'd be a burden until she agreed to stay behind?" Adrian did not answer that, because the honest answer sat too close to the second version. He had, over the 18 months, developed a quiet skill of arranging that his wife never appeared beside him where the world could see them together, a separate box at the theatre, a headache invented on her behalf, a carriage sent ahead. He had told himself it was consideration. He had told himself she preferred it. He had told himself a great many things, and he had believed almost none of them, and he had gone on doing it anyway, because the one thing the Duke of Wexbury could not endure was to see, in the eyes of the fashionable world, the flicker that said, "Is that the best a duke could do?" He met Lady Cassia in the marble hall of Ellesmere House at 9, and she was, indeed, magnificent, gold silk, diamonds, a laugh like struck crystal, and he handed her up the great staircase past 100 watching faces, and the whisper that ran ahead of them was exactly the whisper he had wanted. How well they looked together, what a pair. Of course a Wexbury would choose a Verrill. He felt, for perhaps half an hour, the thing he had come for, and then he felt, underneath it, cold. Cassia was clever and cruel in equal measure. She talked brilliantly about people she despised. She had a way of dismissing everyone not present with a single perfect phrase, and Adrian, listening, realized with a slow sinking that she would dismiss him precisely so the moment his back was turned, and that this was a woman he could stand beside for a lifetime and never once be known by, and that the distance he kept from Margaret was, at least, an honest distance, whereas the closeness he performed with Cassia was a lie the whole room could see and only he had believed. "Your wife not here tonight, Wexbury?" Old Lord Ellesmere asked genially, and Cassia's mouth curved, and Adrian said indisposed and hated the taste of it. It was near 11 when the room changed. He felt it before he understood it, a shift in the noise, a turning of heads, a hush that moved through the crowd from the top of the staircase downward like a wave. Adrian looked up. A woman stood at the head of the great stairs, and for one full heartbeat he did not know her. She was in deep midnight blue silk, cut with a severe and perfect simplicity that made every gold and diamond confection in the room look suddenly overwrought and childish. Her brown hair was dressed close and shining, threaded with a single strand of pearls, and her grey eyes, those unremarkable grey eyes he had trained himself not to look at, held the whole staring room in a level, unhurried calm. She was not smiling. She did not need to. She descended the staircase alone, one gloved hand light on the rail, with the bearing of a woman who had decided at last and entirely that she did not require anyone's permission to be seen. Good God, Roland breathed at his elbow. Adrian, that is Margaret. It was Margaret. She was not plain. She had never been plain. She had been unlit, dimmed by 18 months of a husband who wished her invisible, dressed in the grey unremarkable clothes of a woman told in 100 small silent ways that she must not draw the eye, and someone she had decided tonight to stop. Every head at the Ellesmere ball had turned to the top of that staircase, and not one of them was looking at Lady Cassia Verrill any longer. Adrian's mouth had gone dry. He had not understood, until this moment, how thoroughly he had trained himself not to look at her. He thought back, helplessly, standing there with his mouth dry, over 18 months of not looking. The wedding breakfast, where he had spoken to every guest but the woman he had married. The first winter, when she had learned his favorite dishes and had them set before him, and he had eaten them without a word of thanks, because to thank her would have been to admit he had noticed her at all. The evening she had come to the drawing room in a new gown, a soft rose color, plainly hoping, and he had said only, "You are going out," and turned back to his letters and had seen, from the corner of the eye he would not turn on her, the small careful way she had folded the hope away and gone quietly to bed. He had told himself she did not mind. He had told himself a great many convenient things, in 18 months, and he had believed them because believing them cost less than looking. And she had gone on. She had run his houses flawlessly. She had been kind to his servants and gracious to his tenants and had asked him for nothing, ever. Not a single time, and he had mistaken her dignity for indifference, because it was more comfortable than seeing it for what it was, a woman holding herself upright under the daily small weight of a husband who would not meet her eyes. Now she stood at the centre of the most fashionable ballroom in England, with the whole of the beau monde arranged at her feet, and Adrian Fanshawe understood, far too late, that the unremarkable grey-eyed woman he had hidden from the world for a year and a half had been, all along, entirely capable of stopping a room dead on a staircase, that she had simply never been given a single reason to try, and a great many reasons not to, the grey gowns, the invented headaches, the separate boxes. He had built her cage stone by stone and called it her preference, and tonight she had walked out of it in midnight blue silk, and every person here could see the woman he had refused to. She reached the bottom of the stairs. Lord Ellesmere himself hurried forward to greet her. All delighted bows, "Your Grace, we are honoured. We had heard you were unwell," and Margaret gave him a smile of such warmth and composure that the old man visibly fell a little in love. "I am quite recovered, my lord," she said. I found I could not bear to miss it. She did not look at Adrian. She moved through the room, and the room opened for her, because a room always opens for whoever it has just decided is the most interesting person in it. And she was gracious and quick and quietly funny. And Adrian stood by the wall beside a woman in gold whom no one was watching any more, and understood, with a completeness that took the breath out of him, precisely what he had thrown away in favour of a face. Cassia understood it too. "I believe," she said, with a thin bright smile, "I shall find Lady Ellesmere. Your wife appears to have recovered remarkably." And she was gone, and Adrian did not even mark her going. He crossed the room. It took him a long time. The crowd around Margaret was 3 deep. When he reached her, she was speaking to 2 dowagers about the shipping trade with an ease that had them enthralled, and she saw him come, and she did not stop speaking, and she did not step toward him, and she finished her point entirely before she turned. "Adrian," she said, pleasantly, as one greets an acquaintance. "Margaret," his voice was not steady. He was aware of a dozen listening ears. "You came." "I did. You seemed to feel I oughtn't. I found on reflection that I disagreed." He stopped. Everything he might say was inadequate, and every one of them was watching. "Might I have this dance?" Something crossed her face, not triumph, he saw, something graver and sadder. "You have not danced with me once in 18 months, she said quietly, only for him. "You have arranged with a good deal of care, never to be seen at my side. And now that a room full of people admires me, you wish to be seen at it. Do you hear yourself, Adrian?" He did. For the first time he heard himself entirely. "Yes, I hear myself, and I am ashamed to the bone." She had not expected that. He saw her steady certainty waver. "I told the world you were indisposed," he went on, low and rapid, "because I was a coward, Margaret. Not because you were plain. You were never plain. I told myself that lie because it was easier than the truth. The truth is that I did not know how to be worthy of a woman who asked nothing of me and saw everything, and so I kept you at arm's length where you could not see me clearly, and I dressed you in grey and called it your own preference. And I took a beautiful stranger to this ball to hide behind her face, and I stood beside that face for 2 hours tonight and was more alone than I've ever been in my life. Then you came down those stairs, and I understood that the only person in England I ever wished to be truly known by is the one I have spent 18 months making certain never got the chance. The Dowagers had, with great tact, drifted away. They were, for a moment, nearly alone in the middle of the crush. I did not come to punish you, Margaret said. Her composure had cracked just at the edges. Her grey eyes were bright. I want you to understand that. I dressed as I pleased, and I came because I was tired, so tired, Adrian, of being made small to spare your pride. I decided I would rather be looked at and pitied than hidden and ashamed. I did not think you would even notice. I have never in my life noticed anything so much. That is the tragedy of it, she said. I was here the whole time. The music was starting again. He held out his hand, not commanding, the way a duke holds out a hand, but open, uncertain, a man asking rather than a title requiring. I have no right to it, he said, but I am asking. Not because they are watching, because for 18 months I have wanted to and let my pride forbid me, and I find tonight that my pride is worth exactly nothing and you are worth everything, and I would give the dukedom to begin again. Dance with me, Margaret. Let me be seen at your side. Let me spend whatever years you'll grant me undoing what I did to earn this. She looked at his open hand for a long moment. The whole room had gone quiet again, watching the Duke of Wexbury stand humbled before the wife he had hidden. One dance will not mend it, she said. I know. It will take a very long time, and I shall not be made small again, not by you, not by anyone. I have remembered how to stand at the top of a staircase, and I do not mean to forget. I would fight any man who tried to make you, Adrian said, beginning with the man I was this morning. And Margaret, Duchess of Wexbury, put her hand in her husband's, and let him lead her out onto the floor in front of all England, and if there were tears standing in her eyes as they danced, there were tears standing in his as well, and the fashionable world, which had come to whisper about a plain wife and stayed to marvel at a magnificent one, whispered instead, ever after, about the night the cold Duke of Wexbury had looked at his own wife as though he had only just been born, and she were the first thing he had ever seen. He was true to his word in the long years after. He never once arranged to be apart from her again. He took her everywhere on his arm, to every ball and every box and every dinner, and stood a little behind her and watched the room fall for her exactly as he had, and thought each time, with a gratitude that never dulled, I nearly lost this to my own small pride. He had her portrait painted in the midnight blue silk on a staircase, and hung it where he would see it every single day, so that he might never again forget what he had almost failed to see. You were the diamond all along, he told her once years on, an old married jest between them. I merely spent a season too foolish to look. You looked eventually, Margaret said, and took his arm, and they went into dinner together, side by side, as they always did now, where all the world could see.